Well, excited to get back to work today with our guys. Kind of a unique week. Last year, kind of went through it the first time. They don't have classes or anything this week, so allows them to focus on Northwestern, the opportunity to end up the regular season rivalry game against a team that we respect a lot. So, from an injury standpoint, Pat Bryant was out there today, full go. T. Strain was out there today, full go. Josh was out there at the beginning of practice. We limited him on the back end. But other than that, Jordan Slaughter, who left the game the other day, is trending in the right direction. He's just got to pass a couple protocols to get to where he needs to be. But really, other than that, we should be pretty healthy for Saturday. Just because of the week, and I was gone basically most of Sunday and most of Monday. I'm kind of a little bit behind where they are. I wanted our guys to focus on that, so I'm just going to have coaches and myself take the media load this week. So just a kind of a little bit of a different week with Thursday. We're trying to go earlier in the morning so we can have a Thursday team dinner, Thanksgiving dinner like we did last year, and then allow guys that aren't in the travel roster to get home and be around their families, and then we'll travel up Friday for the 2:30 kick and be ready to roll. So with that, open up for questions.
Coach,
Oh, one other thing. Last week, because of the timing of the sequence of the passing of my mother, I didn't get a chance to say this. And this week on the front end of the championship week, to have 8 teams coming here to play a Memorial Weekend, Memorial Stadium for a championship. I know how special those moments are for high school programs. Not just the programs, not just the players, right? The administration, the coaches, the families, the community. There's so much awesomeness about IHSA football. I heard Fitz in his presser. He's got a son playing in the game, right? I can't. With 2 girls, I literally can't imagine that moment. But who knows in the world we're living in today. But really excited for those families to come down here and experience Champaign like we do.
what was the last couple of days like for you?
It was hard. Last Thursday, Friday, really early Saturday morning was very emotional. Saturday night Sunday was a really tough day. I got home in the afternoon. First time I'd been around my family, so that was really, 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 really tough. The visitation Sunday night had hundreds of people come through our little community, and that gave me reprieve just to see a lot of old faces and people that that meant the world to me. Heard stories about my mother that I'd never heard, right, and from people that I'd never met, but I'd heard about them. And then yesterday, the service was absolutely just a great day of celebration. I actually spoke, which did my recovery process a lot of good. Was able to share some stories about our family to the people there. That was really special. I had a lot of people from Department of Athletics, people from the Big Ten office were there. There was great to see familiar faces, and I appreciate all you. A lot of people here in this community, as well as the media, had reached out to me, and I think it's just a reassurance. I told our staff, right, just to always do the right thing, respect everyone, and a lot of times things come back as tenfold. So,
It's the one thing about her you really want people to know. It's just
my mom. I began to hear from people right away, and then people didn't hear about it until they saw the game, right? And then people didn't hear about it until after the game. I would say the people that knew her well knew who she was, but the people that met her through me, whether it be a post-game celebration at my house, met her at a bowl game, bowl reps, that I heard from, coaches that I worked with in the past, just always said that your mom was a special. And maybe the word special gets used too much, but there's really no other way to describe her. She's a very giving person. Everything was about other people. It was never about her. From the early members to the last one, it's always been about the other people. So I think, I told this to my team Friday night. My dad was talking to me on Friday before I talked to the team, and when Chase got rolled up on the sidelines over there, who's obviously one of our good players at the end of that Purdue game, the first thing she'd saw the special on Chase and Sydney's mom, right? And she'd asked me about their mom and their family and their situation, and the first thing she said when she saw Chase get rolled up was like, "Boy, I hope her mother's there," right? That's what my dad said was the first thing out of her mouth, and that's only something a mother would have that perspective.
how's your dad doing and your family doing?
Okay, Dad, I think is going to go through a daily adjustment. I talked to him this morning. It was interesting. He talked about that first night that he didn't wake up with her, right? They've been married for 62 years, is a long time, and Sunday night I went home, and when I was home, like my mom knows I love coffee, so whenever I was home, she would always say, "I'm starting a pot of coffee, so when you get up in the morning, there's going to be a pot of coffee for you." And went to bed Sunday night and woke up early Monday, day of a funeral, and It was a little before 5, and I went upstairs and there was a hot pot of coffee made, and my heart stopped. I'm like, because you think about things she did, right? So, sounds silly, but that's the way I remember. Let's move on to something else.
But what did you get a sense of what this game means to the team, program, community playing with?
I think we built it last year. When I got here, there were some things that were said from our end, right, from the Illinois end, that to me were a little bit out of balance for someone that has lost 6 in a row to them. So really talked about respect. I showed that Wisconsin and Northwestern, when I got here at that time, they had won. I believe it was 5, the last 5, 3 and 2. Those 2 teams had won them. So a lot about respect. And then the game itself, we played very well. Obviously, I think they functioned well. At the end of the year, we're playing good, and that's my challenge to them this week. They're Northwestern. Obviously, it's a 1-10 football team that has played really good. I think if you ask Ohio State and Purdue, 2 of their last 3 opponents, how good they are. I think they'd have an answer for you. That they come to play every day. They're extremely tough. They're physical. They're well coached. They were in a championship game 2 years ago. It's not like I forgot how to win games over there.
Brett, you talk a lot about complementary football, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go to offense, defense, complementary. How do special teams? How important are they?
Huge. When we played well on special teams, we've really kind of overall played well. When we've had misfires or miscues, they come back to get us in field position game, momentum. If you think about the very first plays of the season, we had a kickoff return that went to the, dang near midfield, and how much of effect that had on the sideline. And the return game is kind of a little bit harder to manufacture, just because a lot of it depends on your opponent, what they want to do or what they want to give you. But for us, we've got to do better in our cover units, and we got to do better in our kickoff return and punt return units to create a position.
You guys kind of, in the punting game, some kind of uneven moments. Where you guys kind of need to
The
get
what?
in the punting game?
Yeah.
It's been kind of uneven the last 2 weeks. Where you kind of need to get more.
Well, the punt
consistency?
game is really about 3 things, right? The operation, the protection, and the kick. And for the most part, we've been pretty clean. We switched to Lane Hansen halfway through. Lane's been very efficient, has done a nice job. I think protection-wise, we've been good for the most part. Haven't had any situation there. And Hugh has done very efficient in certain phases, but the ones that haven't been hit well, it's affected us, even just going back to Saturday, right? So I think overall the effectiveness of our kicking game reflects a lot like what it does offense-defense. When we play well in one phase, we do well overall, right? And we kind of, these last 3 games that we've dropped, it's kind of been one little segment in all areas of offense, defense, special teams. It's this area in offensive plays. It's this in defensive plays. It's this in special teams. But we're not a football team right now that can be dysfunctional and still win games.
Have you kind of prepared for coaching season with your assistants?
Oh, yeah.
What if I lose Aaron Henry to a coordinator job?
Yeah,
Kind of all the
great
good
question.
things.
A lot of that is done for me, this is how I do it. I always do it before the season starts, right? So right now in my folder, I have a go-to list. It really just has 3 people at every position that I have of my 10 assistants, my top head, my department heads, of 3 people that I would go to first, right? But there's the thing that happens now, which is a great point, is you have guys kind of rise or fall, right? Some guys that are at other programs that you take notice of, people we go against. I remembered hiring a defensive line coach really because I went against their defensive line during the course of the year, and was really respected what I saw. It is what it is. I can't control what other people are going to do. It's obviously the things I've kind of said to our staff is just be open and honest with me, and they'll be honest and open with you. And obviously, I want to see people grow and develop. And had several of my guys have gone on to become head coaches, and some have had success, some have had failure. I've kind of almost been able to see before they even get hired what I think is going to happen, right? And it's been fun to see some of that stuff materialize or even be surprised. But yeah, it's part of the game for sure. And Josh has been incredible, which allows me to be proactive.
Have you been?
You guys own the Land Blanket Trophy now. Where's that? First of all, what do you guys keep?
That's we got a trophy case in our locker room that I had them build when we were empty, right? I had them build a trophy case. Sound like a moron, right? Like to build a trophy for trophies we don't have, but we only play actively for 2 every year, right? There's obviously the Turtle with Ohio State, but I think the thing that made a statement to our guys is that hat sat in the locker room all year, right? And then when we had different events with DIA, they always wanted it, right? Because the fans want it and they want to be around it. So without a doubt, this is the first time we've had a standing active trophy in our locker room as a football program since I've been here. So we've made a big deal of it, and they see it and they feel it. And obviously our goal on Saturday is to keep it.
Is there any kind of ritual? Do you guys touch it or, walk by it reverently or anything like that, or no?
Nothing too crazy. I don't know what they do to it, but I know it's there. I know what I do, but that's my personal preference.
And who's in charge of it this weekend? Do you guys bring it with you?
You know, there's actually a conference protocol in this kind of world that we're in right now with the
Right.
whole a couple scenarios that have happened at other places. You know, they've got a conference protocol of trophy games that they've been
Seriously?
sending out. Yeah. So the last 3 or 4 weeks, I remember I was kind of shocked so my first Big Ten trophy game that I was with as a coach.
Okay.
When I was at Iowa, we played Flow to Rosedale. We played for the Pig, and then when I went to Wisconsin, I remember being on our sideline, and we beat Minnesota, and I was kind of just taking my headset off, and my arm got clipped by Scott Starks, ran across, and there was this mad sprint to the other sideline, and I'm just like, and then when I was there, we never lost it, right? We never left it, and then it kind of grew every year to they trot around the stadium, but then they started axing the trophy, the goalpost, and people just grow, right? I mean, and so don't traditions. So I think what they're trying to do with the Big Ten office is just trying to neutralize the possibility of having bad scenarios, right? So
Gotcha.
that everything's kind of off to the side now. We had a protocol set up with Purdue. Obviously, we never took it, right? So they were able to keep it in their possession. So once you have it, it's a little different protocol from when you don't have it.
Have you been set? Go ahead, Scott.
Okay.
About Northwestern, what stands out to you on both sides of the balls?
Yeah, I love their running back. I think that, obviously there's some really good running backs in this league, and he continues to do good things in every game. I think they're an opportunistic defense. They play extremely hard. There is carryover from last year where you can see they try to do things a little different, offense, defense, and then the kicking game. They've kind of like us. They've had some injuries and some different things pop up that you definitely show up, but. One thing you can say, they're extremely physical. They play the game the right way. They play really hard. You throw on that Ohio State game a couple weeks ago, they were going at toe for toe with the highest ranked team in our conference, right? So I mean, they're a team that definitely shows up to play.
Have you been satisfied with the conversations or feedback with the Big Ten between Saturday and where you're at today? You're obviously pretty
Yeah,
frustrated.
I didn't have any conversation this week. Usually what I do is I get in on Saturday, watch the game usually at some point on my own. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, I usually cue a few plays and turn them in. But I didn't do any of it this week. I came in early on Sunday, watched the game, offense, defense, special teams, and I took off from my hometown. I met with the staff early morning, 10:30, and I just kind of decided after the game that I didn't turn any plays in. I didn't want any communication. I'm just kind of done. Said, hey, we'll talk about this after the season. I just felt like where I was at Saturday night after the game, where I was at Sunday morning, I just thought I'm going to concentrate on my team, do what we do better, and let everything else kind of take its shape.
And how far back do you do your homework or get prepared for December 5th, which the transfer portal window opens up?
I was going to misquote you. I thought December 4th is his championship game.
Right.
That's what we've been ready for. A little bit, even going back to last year. So we went through it the first time kind of in this capacity, but now with the rule change because December 4th, but there's a whole lot of rules. There's 229 kids that went in the portal yesterday from FCS. So we had 226 evaluations by 5 o'clock of those kids. So we had in place the people that we wanted to make sure we evaluated all those three. The three we couldn't get film on, we just didn't have those games available to us. So I would say we've been preparing for this moment for a long time. Pat Embleton, his staff is prepared for this. I emailed him. I got back yesterday about 4 o'clock, 4:30. I just said, where are we at with this? And they had a very good answer. I watched about a dozen guys last night, but even in that point, there was a bunch that they wanted me to see, but I only said yes to about 3 or 4 of them. I nixed a bunch of them. But that's even before we start to get into, that was just whether or not they could play for us, right? Like, there's going to be an overwhelming amount on December 5th, I think, but you also hear a little bit ahead of that, and then kids that are actually in grad transfer portals, like they don't have to abide by the same rules, right? And then you had Wisconsin, you had Nebraska, you had Colorado, you had all these schools that made coaching changes, and when that occurs, then you're allowed to have in Auburn, you had 30 days for those players to make decisions, right? So even though they're December 5th, it's been watered down a little bit for then. I'm really interested. They changed the rules so next week we can't go on the road on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so our season where we're at, obviously, unless some things happen this weekend where we get to play in Indy, I'll have a lot of conversation next week with our own roster, right? To see where they're at. So it's a very, very unique time right now, and it's gonna get ramped up about 1,000 degrees in a short amount of time.
With the state championships up for grabs again, were you involved at all in Champaign's bid to keep them?
I just told Josh when it came, we want to do everything we could to keep them here. We have a unique thing because of the Northwestern game. If they keep that sequence going, it's can't have games here and a game that you're playing in, right? So with the Thursday Thanksgiving, they don't want to play on Thanksgiving, which means you got to have Friday and Saturday available. So it's hard to set that up. I even said, do we want to work with the Big Ten office? Do we want to work with Northwestern? Is there something we can work out so we can kind of have more consistency if that's what they want to do? Because I don't think anybody wants to keep moving it around. But if we could play every state championship game here in Memorial Stadium, I think it does nothing but great things for us.